these are sort of my books and comics. This is my graphic novel Soviet Daughter, which is about my great-grandmother's life in the former Soviet Union. It is based on memoirs that she wrote secretly about her life in the USSR before she died. She was born in 1910 and died in 2010, so her life really spans the whole history of the Soviet Union in the kind of great, wonderful things, the horrible things. She was Jewish, so it makes the whole thing so much more complicated and difficult. There's a little bit of a description of the pogroms in the early period, especially before the Soviet Union, and then during the Stalinist period, it was also rather difficult as an understatement.
What about on the plus side? You said that.
Yeah, well, because Jews weren't considered citizens until the Soviet regime, for the first time, her family had full citizenship. So that's kind of a huge deal. Before that, they kind of had to live on the outskirts of Kiev because there was a quota of the number of Jews that can live in the city, which is why a lot of the kind of first years of the Soviet Union, a lot of the leaders were Jewish because finally they were able to have political leadership and to be legal citizens of a state. So she got very, very involved in politics and joined the Communist Party. And because of the work she was doing for the Communist Party, she actually ended up becoming the secretary for the NKVD, which became the KGB later on. So she sort of realized firsthand what was going on, sort of before everyone else did. But this didn't make her any less of a believer in communism, but she did kind of know all of these terrible things that the state was doing at any given moment, which is complex.
What was your relationship with her, and what, as an immigrant at 4 years old, did you have a immigrant experience? You were young.
Yeah, I remember it very well. I think it's one of those instances where most 4-year-olds don't have very good memory of that. Most adults don't remember what happened when they were 4, but it was such a big shift that I think it sort of ramped up my memory, and I was able to remember a lot. I'm able to remember a lot. And she and I were actually very close, which is a little strange for someone who is almost 80 years older, right? But we had a very similar personality, so I kind of fought a lot with other members of my family, but I never ever fought with her, and so we had this very strong bond, and I would, even when we didn't live together, and we did live together in Chicago when we first immigrated, but then she lived in kind of like a senior citizens, like kind of home, and I would visit all the time, and so we never really lived that far apart, so we kind of continued to have that very close relationship. And because I'm the only real English speaker in my family, it really did feel like I was in mini Soviet Union every time I went home, and then I left the house and we were in the US. But then, so we had this kind of weird experience of being very separate from the rest of the United States. Здравствуйте, это мои книги и несколько таких вещей, которые тема Советского Союза или тема политики. Это Роза Luxembourg, карты, которые я принтала. Это просто как с днем рождения, это Роза Luxembourg. Это кофты, просто ти-шерты, которые... Это, конечно, Yuri Gagarin. И... это Comrade Pineapple, это кофта, которую я сделала, потому что просто мне нравится ананас. Sure, yeah. So it's like...
So what about Comrade Pineapple?
So it's actually just my DJ name. I thought it would be funny to make a t-shirt, and I thought the Comrade theme fit with the rest of the with the rest of the stuff, but it's kind of more for fun. Немецкий философ Валтер Беньямин. Это о его философия и жизнь в районе 30-х или 41-х.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just talking about his life, like Walter Benjamin's life before.
And what's your connection to Walter Benjamin?
I just like his philosophy.
What is his philosophy?
So he is a critical theorist, and he had my favorite article that he wrote was about. It's called the Age of Art. art in the age of mechanical reproducibility. So what happens to art when it's so easily reproducible, right? What happens to the feeling of viewing an artwork if it's an artwork that can be copied, right, over and over again. And so he had this idea of aura, where an original like painting or artwork has a certain aura, but that copies don't necessarily have this. But he didn't necessarily mean that it was a bad thing, but it was more kind of interested in how our experience of art and films and other media changes when we know that it's reproducible and it's not just something that we can see in a museum. So a lot of his work is related to film, so it's what I'm most interested, I think. And because I make comics which are reproducible, right, that's a big part of what makes them interesting and kind of easy to read and consume and buy. So. My grandmother's favorite poet was Vladimir Mayakovsky, and he's one of my favorite poets as well. So this is from a scene where she goes to see him speak. And so I did a kind of a full page spread of Mayakovsky with text from his poem, and then on the other side is the first page of what I call interludes. So in between sections that are narrated by my great grandmother, there are sections, very short sections that are narrated by me. So this is an image of me reading and looking at photos, and my great grandmother is behind me. So it's kind of the two generations together.